there. I'm going to talk about you or he or she, the singulars. Anyway, not to get too deep off into that subject.
Yeah, let's get back to the feedback.
I've got a very, very specific style. It's not going to work for everybody, but I want there to be, I want it to be good,
Definitely. So I think the thing it comes down to is when you get that feedback, whether it's good, whether it's bad, should you listen to it? Should you not listen to it? And how do you respond to it?
I will say this, being that you and I have the close relationship that we do, normally I do have a rule of not listening to friends. Definitely don't listen to your parents. And just to give you an example of that, I think anybody would relate to, we've all seen those, I call them momagers, the mothers that are managing these kids, and they'll throw them on American Idol. Oh, Timmy's so great. Timmy's so great. And you get Timmy out there, and the only reason he's there is just kind of for comic relief. And the whole country's laughing at him. But the mom doesn't know. The kid doesn't know, which makes it even worse. And I think that's the reason not to listen to somebody who's really close to you, unless they're a professional, and unless you have that set up. Because I think that you actually prefaced the feedback. You said, I've got some feedback for you. Do you want it?
Did I say that?
I don't know. You probably didn't because of.
That's so nice of me.
Yeah, but sometimes you'll do that, and I think that's important because some people aren't ready for feedback.
I do. Well, I do that for Toastmasters. We're in a speaking group called Toastmasters International together, and I always ask if you want the feedback from me because sometimes people aren't ready for it.
Sometimes people just need. We've all got that friend. You've got one where you can call her up and you can say, "Hey, listen. I was thinking about getting a stick of dynamite and going out to the river and just throwing it off a bridge, see what happens."
Going fishing.
Yeah. And she'd be like, awesome.
Yeah.
What time do I show up?
She'd be like, can I drive you? I got my keys.
Hey, I needed some money. I was thinking about robbing a bank. What do you think? Yeah, she's that kind of friend, and we've all got that kind of friend. But at the same time, though, I think that we need somebody to temper that a little bit when it comes to what we're releasing. I think that's one of the issues that somebody like Tim Ferriss would face. You see these guys that just have a super runaway success, and you kind of start to believe your own press.
Well, when everyone's kissing your ass, is that the reality that you're living in, that you're amazing? Or is the feedback, like the honest feedback, like, hey, it's too long, hey, you need an editor, is that real? I think you have to look at both sides. But
and you have to balance it out.
But I think first, and what you're trying to say with listening to your friends or not listening to your friends in your case, is you have to verify the source of the feedback. You have to know, is the feedback coming from a qualified source or is it coming from an unqualified source? And I would say qualified sources are going to be fellow business owners, people who are in the trenches with you and kind of see it from that perspective. Your customers, I think that's a verified source. Trustworthy friends, some friends. You have to know your own friends, but definitely coaches, mentors, people like that. So given that those are qualified, who would you say are maybe some unqualified sources you maybe shouldn't
let me kind of throw a wrench in the spokes here, though. I know a guy, his name is Jonathan Cain. He plays with Journey. He's the keyboard guy. He wrote Don't Stop Believing, all the big hits, right? And I was talking to him one day about a qualified source, which is Rolling Stone magazine, about how Rolling Stone never gave Journey, any of the Journey albums, a good review. They give them a bad review. Rolling Stone hates the band Journey. Now, in this case, there's a qualified source that doesn't like whatever's being done, but the unqualified source, just the general public, loves it. So it's kind of a gray area. I'm not going against you on this. I agree with you. In the end, if people are going to buy it, that's really how they vote. People vote with their wallets.
Exactly. But I think I definitely agree with you that Rolling Stone is a qualified source. But in that case, it's like, well, where's the money coming from? It's coming from the listeners and the customers. So you have to weigh out your qualified sources there.
And sometimes something like that can give you an enemy. And this is maybe we should have an episode about having an enemy. Sometimes an enemy is really, really good. If there was no Iron Sheik, we wouldn't have Hulk Hogan. If there was no liberals, we wouldn't have Sarah Palin. Sometimes an enemy is really, really, really good. If there was no George Bush, we wouldn't have Obama.
I don't know about verifying all of that, but I'll go with that.
You can trust me on this. I'm
Okay.
a qualified source.
Okay. Give me some unqualified sources so people can get kind of a handle on what would be an unqualified source.
Well, I think anonymous people on the internet that you
Faceless,
really,
anonymous.
nameless, faceless people, you don't really know where they're coming from. They could be the most qualified people in the world, but usually qualified people are going to back something up and they're going to approach feedback much like you said. Are you ready for this feedback? Mm-hmm. Qualified people know that feedback isn't always received. Some people just want to vent, and that's fine. Some people may be jealous. I don't really try to analyze those people too much. At the same time, I don't think we can just say, oh, that guy's just jealous, because I think there's sometimes a lot more. I think the biggest thing is if you're getting a lot of anonymous feedback, let's say from these nameless, faceless people, and you can have some kind of pattern recognition, it's one thing to have one comment. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, will get 50 letters and then one bad one. 50 good ones, one bad one. And we'll say, oh, damn it. And we'll focus on that one rather than the 50 good ones. So I think you have to look for pattern recognition. You're not going to get everybody, but if you're starting to get a lot of bad feedback, maybe it's something to look at.
But that might be what Tim Ferriss is doing. Say 3/4 of the people that comment on his podcast are like, yes, this is
maybe
awesome.
So.
I love it. And
maybe
1/4 aren't. So
but
he's
here's
trying
the problem.
to keep doing his thing like you were talking about Journey.
Yeah, here's the problem, though, is back in Journey's day, there was not this interactive forum. It's like going to a comedy club when the comic gets into it with a heckler. You're never going to win. The show gets thrown off. That's why they throw these hecklers out as soon as they start something at a comedy club. You never win. And when people can see the conversation on Twitter, or people can see that you're having somebody get under your skin on your blog and you're getting into some kind of basically flame war on your blog comments or Twitter, or if you're on stage, I guess this is feedback. We're trying to keep this podcast clean, right? We're not using any profanities.
Correct.
Okay, so I don't want to. The reason I'm just verifying that with you and letting folks know is that
was your idea, by the way.
I don't want to.
I was like, let's throw some F-bombs in there.
Well, I'm about ready to drop one.
No, Laurel,
I'm about ready to drop one, but I'm not going to because there's no editing on the Red podcast.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I was speaking in Atlanta one time at a big music business event, and some guy stood up and he says, "You don't know what the F you're talking about."
Ouch.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
And you're on
Everybody's
stage?
looking at me. Yeah, I was on
Ouch.
stage.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at me like, what are you going to do? And
what'd you do?
I said, well, let me finish up here. I hope you'll come up and see me afterwards if you've got specific questions, and if you'll give me that feedback and let me know why you feel that way, I'm happy to receive it. But let me finish up here. Trying to take the higher road, you can't really do that maybe from a live standpoint, like ignore somebody. You get to be like that NRA guy. Remember after the school shootings at Sandy Hook, people started heckling the NRA president, and he just kept on going like a robot. That's bad. But if you're on Twitter or if you're on your own forum or something, you can ignore that. You can always argue that you didn't see it. So two different ways to handle those things. If they're getting you in person, you've got to respond, but don't do it by throwing that same kind of thing back to them.
Sure. So I want to go through some steps here just so people can have some takeaways. So I think verifying the source of the feedback. Some feedback you should really take with a grain of salt. Nameless, faceless people definitely don't listen to. But if you have pattern recognition, or if you have people that you trust that you know are on your side here and it would have good feedback for you, probably want to listen to them. So
yeah, just look at it. Just look at it. And then you can say yes or no.
Look at it. And I would say the next thing is to extract what you can from the feedback to get better, whether it's good feedback, whether it's bad. What can you take away from it to do it better the next time? Like you in your book, that the first one you released in 99, and you took that feedback. You didn't just ignore it, because if you ignored it, you wouldn't be where you were today. And it's easy to ignore it and say, no, that's not me. I'm great. I can put a sentence together. But when you really listen and you extract the good stuff out of it, you really make yourself better and you get to where you're going. So I'd say look at the good, look at the bad, and extract what you can out of it.
It's a great opportunity for improvement. And that is how business is won and life is won. Just
Exactly.
slow, consistent, gradual improvement. It doesn't happen in the leaps and bounds that a lot of people would have you believe.
And if you think you're perfect right now, you're not. I mean, you're just not going to be perfect, and you can't be closed off to that feedback coming to you. So I would say be open to it and know that, as you said in the beginning, the more people you reach, the more feedback, good and bad, you're going to get. So it just means you're reaching more people. And if you remain open to that feedback, the people that are open to it are going to go way farther in life and business than those who aren't.
Yeah, it's like having somebody return your product. If you're selling enough, you're going to get returns on it.
Exactly. But it won't, if you're Target or Walmart or anything like that and people returning loads of stuff every day, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah, you're playing the big game here.
Exactly.
So, Laurel, that's another episode in the can.
Love it.
We kept it clean.
We did. Barely. We're
what
trying.
the fudge are you talking about?
Okay.
All right. Well, if you've got questions, comments, feedback, redpodcast.com is where to do that.
Yep. If you have negative feedback, go to David. Positive, come to me.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really negative or positive, is it? It's just
It's all
feedback.
good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
It is what it is.
Like it.
So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Red Podcast.